All right, hello, welcome back to Unqualified Analysis. Boy, has a lot happened since the last time we talked to each other. I'm out of the closet of shame. There's a giant echo, and I just simply don't care because it's more convenient to record from this spot, especially when I'm home all alone. And it's a beautiful thing to be home all alone. I'll tell you what, I enjoy my solitude over here in beautiful sunny East Tennessee. At least today it's sunny. It's been rainy this last week or so. But yeah, whew, boy, has there been a lot going on. We had the run up to free agency, which saw a flurry of moves, roster moves, extensions signed, franchise tags, all that sort of good stuff. Guys getting released. We'll talk about all of that. Also today, and I did not realize this the last time we talked, Monday, starting at noon. Today, as I'm recording this, the quote-unquote legal tampering period open, which basically just means free agency is open for business here, folks. No one can sign a deal, so you'll get a few reversals here and there. We already had one today, which we'll talk about here in short order. But dozens of free agent deals have been agreed to. They can't be signed until Wednesday. But, we're going to start off going through the ones so far as of, Monday at 6:30-ish. Sure there will be more that come out throughout the time that I'm recording this, and I'll say them as I go. But I'm going to leave a full, free agency recap for next week. Really, I'm just going to be reading down the list of names here. Save one big move that you all probably already know which one. I'm going to wait to elaborate on my feelings for them until next week, I'd say. When basically, come next Monday, the free agent market is going to be calmed down pretty significantly. I think throughout the course of this week, we're going to be getting probably 75 to 80% of the free agent contracts from here until next Monday. So that'll, get a pretty good lay of the land as to who did what in free agency. But yeah, we got that. And it's going to be a miracle if I can keep this thing under an hour and a half. But I'm going to try my damnedest here. Me and my coffee, I'm going to be reading fast. I'm going to be reacting fast. And you know what? With that said, Let's fire up the old phone, get a quick gulp of coffee here. Got a new free agent thing that just came across the timeline. Hold please. Giants have added offensive lineman Jermaine Illuminor to a 2-year, $14 million deal. I guess that's good for the Giants. Sure. To be perfectly honest, the name rings a bell. Don't know where he's coming from. I'm sorry to that man. Pretty big money though. $14 million over 2 years. So yeah, I guess it's a good signing for the Giants. But yeah, with that, let's open up my notes app here. Boy, was that a long scroll for just a bunch of headlines since noon today. Get another quick gulp of coffee here. And then let's crack right into this thing. First and foremost, let's get the big one out of the way here. The biggest domino in free agency, specifically in the quarterback market. The Kirk Cousins era in Minnesota has come to an end. He is signing with the Atlanta Falcons as was expected if he wasn't going to sign with the Minnesota Vikings. 4 years, $180 million, $100 million of that guaranteed. I believe he is getting $90 million over the first 2 years. $50 million signing bonus right out of the gates. So Kirk Cousins, the bag man himself, has struck again. At the end of this deal, he'll have made over $300 million in his NFL career. Got another big guaranteed contract, and you saw it. 4 years, $180 million. We weren't going to pay that. We being the Vikings, the proverbial we, if you will. We're not going to pay that. It's kind of what I figured might happen, especially if Kirk Cousins was going to get north of $40 million. Unfortunately, adios, senor. It's been nice knowing you in Minnesota. We just weren't going to pay that. That simply wasn't feasible for our roster plans going forward. And yeah, I'd say that pretty squarely puts Atlanta in the driver's seat for the NFC South right now. As for the Vikings, made some good additions here today as far as free agency is concerned. We'll get into all that in just a second here. But No extension for Justin Jefferson right now. Kirk Cousins is out the door. Signed a couple edge rushers, so it looks like Daniil Hunter is on his way out as well. Probably signing with the Bears, which is going to hurt me deep within my own soul. What is this? What's coming across? Oh, this is a big one that I should hit real quick, and then we'll get back to it. The Panthers. You know, we'll get to that in just a second. Let's finish off the Kirk Cousins of it all here. So no quarterback right now. I mean, sure, technically on paper we got Nick Mullins and Jaron Hall. TJ Hawkinson's coming off the IR. I think we were already going to draft a quarterback. I think that's been clear throughout the course of this offseason so far. Right now, it seems like Sam Darnold is the leader in the clubhouse based on what the insiders are saying about the whole deal. Me personally, I would much rather have Jacoby Brissett over Sam Darnold. I think I've seen quite enough from Sam Darnold. Jacoby Brissett played legitimately well with the Cleveland Browns, played legitimately well with the Commies last year in his limited reps there. We don't need a long-term option here. In fact, it'd be better if we weren't looking at a long-term option. Instead, we need a bridge quarterback, and I just simply think Jacoby Brissett is a better bridge quarterback than what Sam Darnold is going to give you, quite frankly. Yeah, Sam Darnold throws a nice, pretty ball, tight spiral, often goes to the other team, and you don't know what the hell it's going to happen the other times, but sure, he throws a nice, tight spiral, got a rock of an arm, cool, awesome, former number 3 overall pick. Get that shit out of here. Give me Jacoby Brissett. If I had a pick between those two, give me Jacoby Brissett, and then we'll see how the board shakes out in the first round. If you can trade up and get a guy like a Drake May or something like that, go ahead, go get Drake May. I would be overjoyed if we got Drake May to sit behind whatever bridge quarterback we get. And it feels like this is what the Vikings are going to do, but I'd prefer they not. I would feel like we're cutting off our nose despite our face if we traded up to get J.J. McCarthy. I do not want J.J. McCarthy on my football team. And if we ultimately do get J.J. McCarthy, and he is a Viking for the foreseeable future, and he plays well, awesome. I was wrong. And I have on multiple occasions been more than happy to admit when I am wrong. I didn't see it from him at Michigan. Sorry, guys. He's an attractive-looking white kid. I mean, 21 years old, good frame, all that sort of stuff. Can he throw a damn football? Can he? Looking at what he did at the Combine, I'm not quite sure that's the case. I would much rather, if those top 3 quarterbacks are off the board, which it seems like pretty locked in at 1, 2, 3, Williams, May, and Daniels, in whatever order you choose to go in there. I just don't feel comfortable taking a quarterback in the first round if that is what ends up happening. Hell, I would honestly prefer to have Bo Nix over J.J. McCarthy, quite frankly. I am not a believer in J.J. McCarthy. I do not believe in J.J. McCarthy. If we decide not to go with the quarterback in the first round, though, it feels like, just based off all the chatter, feels like Michael Penix is just going to be sitting there in the second round. Maybe the Vikings will have to trade up for him in the second round. I'd be cool with that. I would much rather, I was really over the moon impressed with what Michael Penix did throughout the course of the last 2 seasons at Washington, particularly in the playoffs. And I know he had like 3 future pro receivers, 3 receivers that are going to be in this draft on that Washington team. He's got a laser rocket of an arm. I mean, the most electric arm in the entire draft. Well, save Joe Milton, but come on, we know who Joe Milton is. He's got a cannon of an arm but can't really control it. Michael Penix is maybe the most accurate passer in the draft, with some of the best ball placement, and has a cannon attached to his shoulder. If we don't take maybe we just take a Jared Verse in the first round, get another edge guy, and then parlay it into the second round. Feels like one of either like a Bo Nix or a Michael Penix is going to be sitting there in the second round. Why not wait? Bring in a guy like Jacoby Brissett that you know probably not going to give up the job, barring an injury. Let him sit back behind, learn the offense, get some mechanical stuff worked out, and then whenever that guy's ready, bring him in to be the future quarterback of the team. And especially going with the second round contract there, much more favorable. Not like any of the rookie contracts, even in a first round basis, are that salary cap prohibitive. But I would much rather do that than trade away a whole bunch of assets, go up and get J.J. McCarthy, a guy that I simply don't believe in. And again, if he plays well, I will admit fault. I've done it before. I am sure, 100% sure, I will do it again. I'm an objective thinker in this. I just also have an opinion when it comes to these things. I would much rather have either Bo Nix or Michael Penix than J.J. McCarthy right now. I've been thoroughly scared away from J.J. McCarthy for really, I mean, I don't know if I was ever on the J.J. McCarthy train, quite frankly. I was probably more on the Joe Milton train than the J.J. McCarthy train, and I wasn't ever really on the Joe Milton train, especially not after like the first few weeks when he didn't really play that well. So yeah, Vikings are in a bit of a flux situation. Objectively, especially after all the moves that have happened today, the Vikings have objectively the worst roster in the NFC North. I'm just calling it what it is. The Bears have made big moves today. And throughout the course of the last week defensively. The Packers are clearly going all in with what they've got. They made some big time moves on the defensive side. I can't remember if they made any defensive moves or not, but the offensive side, they have loaded up. The Lions is the Lions, and right now the Vikings are the only team sitting there where they don't have a great and clear option at quarterback. I mean, even the Bears, they got Justin Fields in there right now, who I think you can win with if you structure the offense properly, or they just draft Caleb Williams, which just seems like what they're going to do, and you've got a generational sort of quarterback prospect in your building. They're kind of a win-win situation. In fact, I think they're really pushing for a playoff spot this coming year. The Vikings they're in a tough spot right now, and the North is stacked this year. So hoping for a few more moves here in free agency. Really what I'm hoping for is a kick-ass draft. If we get a kick-ass draft, we're right back in this thing, especially if we hit on the quarterback that we inevitably take. We are right back in this thing. But yeah, we got an uphill climb right now with what the North is doing all around us. It's gonna be tough. But with that said, no time to dilly-dally here. We had a blockbuster trade just come across the wire here. The Panthers are trading star. This is coming straight from Ian Rappaport's Twitter. Panthers are trading star pass rusher Brian Burns to the New York Giants. That is a 5-year deal worth $150 million max, $87.5 million guaranteed, done by his agent Todd France. Carolina sends Burns to New York Giants for a second and a fifth rounder. Not a bad little price tag from a Giants perspective. I mean, if you're sending a second and a fifth for Brian Burns, one of the better pass rushers in the entire league, I think you take that every single day of the week. And now the Giants have an elite pass rusher to put opposite of Kayvon Thibodeau. Not sure if it'll lead to a winning football team. They have a lot of offensive line stuff to figure out, but we'll get to that there in free agency. Big time pickup though from the New York Giants. Splash move from them. And they're moving in the right direction, I suppose. And finally, Brian Burns has been freed from the prison that is Charlotte, North Carolina. No disrespect to my family members who happen to live in that area, but you know who David Tepper is if you've watched that team for long enough. I apologize to you. Huge move from the New York Giants, though. All right, let's just quickly run through what we've got so far in free agency after this quick gulp of coffee. We're just going to just get straight into it. Starting off in the NFC North, hitting the ground running here, Bears are adding DeAndre Swift, running back who was on the Eagles last year. He will now be on the Bears on a 3-year, $24.5 million deal, $15 million guaranteed. Good pickup for them. Should be a nice 1-2 punch between him, or 1-2-3 punch between him, Deontay Foreman, and Khalil Herbert. Again, Bears are making a playoff push. Left tackle Deion Dawkins of the Buffalo Bills is staying in Buffalo on a 3-year, $60.5 million extension. with the Bills, a guy they needed to keep around, especially with Josh Allen being the wild man that he is. Tony Pollard, former running back of the Cowboys, now he is signing with the Tennessee Titans, 3-year, $24 million deal. I'm going to have guarantees on some, not on others, but it is what it is there. Edge rusher Jonathan Grenard, formerly of the Houston Texans, is signing a big deal with my Minnesota Vikings, 4 years, $76 million. That's $19 million a year if you were doing the quick math at home. $42 million of that guaranteed. Let's fucking go. Was my initial reaction until I realized, oh wait, we're not going to pay Danielle Hunter. He's going to the Bears. I'm going to cry into my pillow up in my room. But really solid edge rusher, a guy that's really coming on of late. Really last season had a big-time breakout year. So I'm happy as hell to have Jonathan Grenard on my defense. Up next, Broncos are giving safety Brandon Jones a 3-year deal for $20 million, $12.5 million of that guaranteed. Titans are signing center Lloyd, smoking that good Cushenberry, formerly of the Denver Broncos, now at the Tennessee Titans. They now have their starting center on a deal that I never really got the details of, but he is in agreement to go to the Titans right now. The Jacksonville Jaguars, they got no one in the secondary, they got no one on the offensive line. What's Trent Baalke's response? How about another wide receiver? They get Bills wide receiver Gabe Davis on a 3-year deal, $39 million, because why not? Trent Baalke likes shiny things. He got a new shiny thing in Gabe Davis down there at Jacksonville. Jacksonville was not done, but we'll get to that here in a little bit. Defensive tackle Christian Wilkins, the diamond of the free agent defensive tackle class after Justin Madubuike got taken off the board. We'll talk about him here in a little bit more in depth. He is heading to the Las Vegas Raiders on a 4-year, $110 million deal, $84.75 million of that guaranteed. Big get for the Las Vegas Raiders. Going to take some pressure off of Max Crosby on the edge, starting to really build that defense in Antonio Pierce's image. I really like that pickup. Obviously, big time pickup. I think the consensus was anywhere from $21 to $23 million a year for Christian Wilkins' services. He gets 27. Good for him. A good deal by the agent. I think that was Mulugeta. Mulugeta is absolutely killing it in these last couple years of getting guys deals. He's an absolute bag man. Watch out for him if you're on the other side of the negotiating table from Anthony Mulugeta. Former Cowboys starting center Tyler Biadasz is expected to sign with the Commies following the former defensive coordinator from the Cowboys, Dan Quinn. I think that's a good deal. I mean, any offensive lineman you get in Washington is a good thing. So that's a good pickup for them. The Commies are also adding former Cowboys pass rusher Dorrance Armstrong for a 3-year, $45 million deal. Good pickup. Again, you trade away both of your star defensive. Well, Chase Young, I use that a little bit loosely, but at least Montez Sweat, you trade away both of those guys last season. You need to bring in some good guys. Dorrance Armstrong playing a bit more of a rotational role with the Dallas Cowboys. Fresh legs, really good in the reps that he did get, opposite of Micah Parsons. Don't know why that name didn't come to my head. It's been a long day, folks, but good pickup by the Commies there. Defensive back Lonnie Johnson, expected to sign back with the Texans after spending a year in New Orleans. That was a good deal to not sign him last offseason, I guess. Let New Orleans pay him, and then we'll get back to it whenever, I suppose. We'll get back to you in 2024, I guess. My brain just started going there. I had to do some stuff on the screen, and I got distracted. Either way, Darnell Savage of Green Bay Packers fame, the safety, is signing with the Jacksonville Jaguars. There you go. There is a secondary signing that you sorely needed. Still need cornerbacks, but Darnell Savage is a start. Really quality player. Good pickup for a change for Trent Baalke. Colby Parkinson, I believe the former Seahawks tight end, staying in the NFC West. He's going to the Rams on a 3-year, $22.5 million deal. $15.5 million of that is guaranteed. They love their white tight ends in LA. I don't know what the deal is. Him, Tyler Higbee. Hopefully Colby Parkinson doesn't have quite the sordid past of Tyler Higbee. let's leave the past in the past, though. If you want to look that up, though, that's an interesting story there from Tyler Higbee's college days. I digress on that front, though. Another white receiver is finding his home with the LA Rams. Lions Pro Bowl guard Jonah Jackson is also signing with the Rams. 3 years, $51 million, $34 million of that guaranteed. Big-time signing for Sean McVay. Will continue to ensure that Kyren Williams has elite blocking in front of him, and the Rams are still going to be playoff contenders going forward. So long as Matthew Stafford is there, so long as Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Colby Parkinson, who they just signed, who I think is going to be doing more blocking anyways, they got themselves a hell of an offense. Sean McVay is going to coordinate the hell out of it. We all know that. Good pickup for the LA Rams. Defensive end, Bryce Huff, very interesting prospect here in free agency. The Eagles win the sweepstakes for him. 3 years, $51.1 million to go to Philadelphia. Sorry, just absolutely murking an ant that was on my desk here. Got to do what you got to do sometimes, man. Murder feels good. Ugh, that's quite a quote. Don't quote me on that, but you know. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. I've killed dozens of ants here over the last couple of weeks. Former Raiders running back Josh Jacobs is expected to sign with the Green Bay Packers for 4 years, $48 million, and the Packers now have their new bell cow because subsequently the Packers are releasing longtime running back Aaron Jones, who will now be added to that free agent market of running backs. He's hitting the market at a good time, though, because a lot of running backs agreed to terms today. I think Aaron Jones is right out of the gate the top one on the market as of right now. Not the freshest legs in the world, but especially after last year, in the reps that he played, he was spectacular. He can still provide a lot of juice for some offense. Maybe the Vikings offense. We'll see if it all works out that way. The Jacksonville Jaguars were not done for the day. Former Broncos and Saints kicker Will Lutz agreed to a 3-year deal. Psych! The Broncos swooped in at the last second. They're keeping him in Denver. The Jags do not get a kicker. No soup for you. Trent Baalke, go to hell, is what George Paton said over there in Denver. A good guy to keep around if you are the Denver Broncos. Speaking of the running back market, former Giants running back, star running back even, running back Saquon Barkley, he's going to the Eagles on a 3-year, $37.75 million deal. $26 million of that is guaranteed. And hey, you lose a running back in free agency in DeAndre Swift. How about we upgrade with a big-time guy like Saquon Barkley? I think Nick Sirianni is going to really like what he gets there, especially if you can continue to bolster the interior of that offensive line. Got to figure out the center now that Jason Kelce retired. But all across the other parts of that offensive line, they have been rock solid, and they got a lot of guys that have been there for a long time. So adding Saquon Barkley, I think, gives that offense a good bit of juice. Commies running back Antonio Gibson is joining the Patriots. Deal unknown there. Don't really care. It was just something that crossed the timeline, and I had to put it down here. Vikings are signing a former Dolphins linebacker Andrew Van Ginkel to a 2-year, $20 million deal. Van Ginkel was on one of those initial defenses of Brian Flores when he was the head coach there in Miami. Drafted him to Miami. Now they are reuniting with the Minnesota Vikings. Good pickup there by my boys, especially assuming Danielle Hunter is not going to be coming back, which still hurts my heart. Giants are adding a guard, former Packers guard John Runyon on a 3-year, $30 million deal. Whatever, get out of here. Get out of here. Oh yeah, here's Lloyd Cushenberry's numbers. It's 4 years, $50 million, and whatever, sets several records for centers. Signing bonus, $18 million. $26 million of a guaranteed, $20 million cash in the first year. Cool, there you have it. There's the numbers for Lloyd Cushenberry there with the Tennessee Titans. But yeah, John Runyon going to the Giants. They're in perpetual need of offensive line, so a good pickup for them. A guy that's played pretty well there for the Green Bay Packers over the last couple of years. The Colts are bringing back edge rusher Tyquan Lewis. Good young guy, good guy to keep around. The Vikings once again are signing another defensive guy, linebacker Blake the Cashman Cashman, to a 3-year, $25.5 million deal. $25 million deal. Easy for me to say. He is originally from Eden Prairie, Minnesota. So welcome home. Welcome home, young blood. I think the fans are going to love having one of their hometown guys back. He played very well last year. Let's hope he continues that trend. Raiders defensive tackle Bilal Nichols, is signing with the Cards for a 3-year, $21.1 million deal. $14 million of that is guaranteed. Good pickup there by the Cardinals. Jonathan Gannon starting to fill out that defense a little bit more. Dolphins guard Robert Hunt, yes, that's the one, got a massive deal. One of the bigger deals of the day, just behind what we just saw from Brian Burns and Christian Wilkins. He gets $100 million over 5 years with $63 million guaranteed from the Carolina Panthers. Feels like a bit of an overpay, but, sometimes when you're a bad franchise, you got to overpay guys to come to your place. All things considered, maybe keeping Bryce Young on his feet is not a bad thing. So that's a good pickup, if not, a bit of an overpay for Robert Hunt there with the Carolina Panthers. Jeff Okudah continues his journey around the NFL. This time he's signing with the Texans on a 1-year deal, cheapish. I think it's like $4.75 million base salary, up to $6 million. It's like $2 million of that's guaranteed. Basically a 1-year flyer. If he somehow breaks out opposite of Derek Stingley, you got yourself a damn good player. And if not, cut that after 1 year. I think it's a good signing from Nick Caserio in the front office there with the Texans. Sticking in the cornerback market, cornerback Sean Murphy-Bunting is signing a 3-year, $17.25 million deal with the Arizona Cardinals. Again, filling out that defense for Jonathan Gannon there in Arizona. Veteran defensive tackle and fellow state alum, hello, shout out, Danico Autry is signing with the Texans on 2 years, $10 million. Good pickup again for the Texans. I expect them to go all in. I think they're probably going to be in for some big players here throughout the course of this free agency. We'll stay locked in on what they do. Them and the Bears, quite frankly, I think is going to be on a bit of a spending spree this offseason. The Packers are adding Pro Bowl caliber safety Xavier McKinney on a 4-year, $68 million deal, $25 million in year 1. The Packers are all in. Excuse me, that just blew out the speakers, I think, for the podcast listeners. I apologize for that. Had a bit of something stuck in my nose. Had to quick achoo real quick to get that out of there. But big time signing, especially not having Darnell Savage there anymore. I can't remember if Darnell Savage was the one they traded to the Bills last year or not, but getting a new safety in there, really solid safety, a really, really good young safety too in Xavier McKinney. Again, the Packers are all in. They understand the window is open right now for Jordan Love and that team. And I doubt they're done in this free agent cycle. They got room to spend, quite frankly. Keep an eye on them as well. Running back Devin Singletary is going to the New York Giants after a solid season with the Texans. It's a 3-year, $16.5 million deal. Not exactly a replacement for Saquon Barkley, but a good starter. Good starter there. What do we got here? Just coming across the timeline. Former Chargers running back Austin Eckler is planning to sign a 2-year deal with the Washington Commanders. That's another one off the market on the free agent running back market. Well, eloquently said by yours truly. But not sure what's left for Eckler in the tank. But if it works out, it's going to work out well, I would imagine. It's not like they got a whole lot of running backs back there right now. They got Brian Robinson. Antonio Gibson just left the building. So, hey, worth a flyer, I suppose, 2-year deal. Running back market, an aging running back too, so you probably didn't get him for a whole lot of money. Why not? Why not, man? Colts are keeping defensive tackle Grover Stewart for 3 years, $39 million. Big-time deal for a homegrown product there with the Colts. The Chargers are adding running back Gus Edwards on a 2-year deal. Edwards stays in the Harbaugh family. They love their giant men, massive men, just a giant of a man. One of my favorite running backs in the NFL, a goal line savage, Gus Edwards. I would imagine Jim Harbaugh saw the way his brother used Gus Edwards in that offense and was licking his chops to get him over in LA. He does it on a 2-year deal. Good pickup by the Chargers. We'll see what they do with the offensive line, though. Bengals are adding Ravens safety Geno Stone, who had 7 interceptions last year on a 2-year, $15 million deal. Good pickup by the Bengals. They're still kind of reeling from losing those 2 safeties in Bates, and the other one who I believe was actually better, whose name escapes me. Can't think of him off the top of my head. I'm sorry to that man, but still reeling from losing those two guys last offseason. So a good addition there in Geno Stone on a reasonable contract. Good for them. Gardner Minshew of Jaguars, Colts, Eagles, I'm sure there will be 10 more teams by the time it's all said and done. Fame is going to the Raiders on a 2-year, $25 million deal. $15 million of that is guaranteed. Likely going to be the starter this year. It's a quote-unquote competition between him and Aiden O'Connell. Come on, man. Gardner Minshew is going to start for the Raiders this coming year. We'll see if they add a quarterback in the draft to go along with Gardner Minshew there. The Jags are adding another one here. Star special teams player Devin Duvernay on a 2-year deal. $8.5 million on that deal as well. Good returner. Really good returner. Don't know what this means for Jamal Agnew, but just Trent Baalke seeing a shiny thing and not being able to resist. So there you go. He's there with the Jags. Now, Leonard Floyd is going to the San Francisco 49ers on a 2-year, $20 million deal. Good pickup there on the edge, especially since Chase Young didn't turn out to be so great. Putting him opposite of Nick Bosa. Not a bad 1-2 pair on the outside there for the 49ers. Cornerback Chido Awuzie of Bengals fame, as I just murk another ant here. You got to do what you got to do. Sometimes you got to commit a little bit of murder of bugs, but I digress on that front. Chido Awuzie is signing a 3-year deal with the Tennessee Titans. Good pickup there for the secondary. Best corner on that Bengals team for a while. Tough loss for the Bengals, but I think Lou Anarumo will figure it out. Really good pickup for the Tennessee Titans, though, in Brian Callahan's first year as a head coach. Former Panthers linebacker Frankie Louvu. The football nerds love Frankie Louvu, man. He flies around the damn field. He is a really good player. Could not stay with the Panthers, though. They could not match the offer that the Commies gave him. 3 years, $36 million. Dan Quinn establishing the identity of that team early. Offensive line, running backs, defensive players. He's putting his stamp on this team, building that culture from the lines of scrimmage and up. Really good pickup there in Frankie Louvu. I think he's going to play well in that free-flowing Dan Quinn sort of defense. Zadarius Smith, formerly a Vikings trader, is staying in Cleveland on a 2-year, $23 million deal. Good for him. Good for him. Rushing opposite of Myles Garrett must be nice, I suppose. So, hey, enjoy your time in Cleveland. Whatever. Former Patriots linebacker Mack Wilson is signing with the Arizona Cardinals on a 3-year, $12.5 million deal. Again, Jonathan Gannon filling out that defense. Another good pickup for him. Defensive end Marcus Davenport is staying in the NFC North as he hops on over to Detroit on a 1-year deal. Maybe he'll play more than 15 snaps this year. Linebacker Anthony Walker, formerly of the Cleveland Browns, is going to the Dolphins on a 1-year deal. We'll see if this works out. He's had a lot of injury issues here. Dolphins just got cleaned out in free agency this year, man. They're going to pay Tua and have no defense on the other side, man. I mean, Dolphins overs might be a play here going forward, especially losing Vic Fangio this offseason. It might be a tough year, another tough year defensively for the Miami Dolphins this upcoming year. And one more here for the road. Lions traded for Bucs cornerback Carlton Davis and 2 6th-round picks, one in 2024, one in 2025, for a 3rd-round pick. Pretty good price for a legitimate starting corner. I can't remember if they still have Cameron Sutton or if he got cut, but secondary was a glaring area of need for the Lions this last season. So adding Carlton Davis in there, a legit starting outside corner, could not hurt one bit. And as of right now, I just went through all of the free agent signings as of about 7 o'clock on Monday. So yeah, with that, there's going to be much more where that came from. Don't you worry here, folks. But with that said, 34 minutes in, let's get into the headlines here as I take a good gulp again from the coffee. Got to keep the energy up. Otherwise, I'm going to slow down. This is going to be a 2-hour podcast. Still might be a 2-hour podcast because I have I mean, just a cornucopia of headlines here. But starting off, things I missed from last week. Deadline for the tag was on Tuesday, not Monday, as I erroneously stated on the previous episode. I apologize. Am a dum-dum. Also, Florida fired all of its DEI staff, apparently. Yep, that's going to really do wonders for their recruiting against in-state schools. Florida was already really doing well against the likes of Florida State and Miami down there. So this will definitely help. This will definitely help, and I'll leave it there. Good times over there in Florida. It's a delightfully insane state. Yeah. I don't know if Florida's trying to win or if they're trying to appease the powers that be, but it seems like they're doing the latter right now. And again, I'll just leave it at that. Getting off on the actual headlines. Well, it's kind of a headline, and I'm not sure if I've broached this topic before, but I have decided to adopt a secondary team in college football, folks. So my thought process here. Mississippi State, let's be realistic, probably not going to be competing for a whole lot of national championships here in the next 10 years or so. Probably in any given year, probably not going to be competing for a national championship. I love Mississippi State, but at the same time, I want to root for a little bit of success here. So, just as a general rule of thumb, I'm not rooting for anybody in the SEC. Even Missouri, they're not really an SEC team, but they've been lumped in here for long enough to where, yeah, they count. I believe in a healthy level of hatred for the competition around us, so no one in the SEC. They're already out. Pac-12, it's dead. What, am I going to just cheer for Oregon State and Washington State as the boat sinks over there? That would be depressing. No. I'm not going to do that. Also, it's pretty akin to cheering for Mississippi State anyways, except for there's less of a good talent pool up there in Oregon and Washington to pull from if you're Oregon State and Washington State. Big Ten, kind of a rival to the SEC right now. I don't necessarily want to, hop on a rival train. Also, I mean, the brand of football over there is just like watching paint dry. I mean, look at Iowa, man. Look at the sad state of Iowa. Well, I mean, not even really sad because they're winning games. I mean, Phil Steele's got that defense playing with their hair on fire over there. But offensively, my God, what are you even doing over there? And they're not the only ones with the terrible offense. I mean, I feel like half the conference is just god-awful offense after god-awful offense. And I'm not trying to root for Ohio State. I don't want to root for really Penn State. Nah. Michigan, fuck that. No. I'm not rooting for them smarmy motherfuckers. I hope they fail at every turn. They got their national championship. It's just pain from here on out, okay? So that kind of leaves them out. UNC, Oregon's they're a good sort of option here. I mean, maybe consider them, but at the same time, just not quite my vibe. I'm looking for kind of an underdog role here. So the Big Ten, they're out. ACC, I'm not trying to jump on a sinking ship, and no one there is really fitting the underdog vibe that wouldn't just basically be akin to rooting for Mississippi State. So that brings me to the Big 12 right now. And we go down the list of Big 12 teams. There's one that really sticks out in my mind that's got a little bit of synergy from my parents happening to live in the state where this team did battle once upon a time. Maybe even, I can't remember if they were in the same town, in the same area, or where they were at. But what I do know right now is that this team fits everything I love in college football. They play tough defense. They are a well-coached football team. They get the most out of the players that they get, and they win at a high level. I am, of course, talking about the Utah Utes. I'm picking them as my team from outside of Mississippi State. My second team, the team that I'll be following from here on out. Maybe I'll be getting some Utah Utes gear here at some point. The campus is beautiful. The football team, really, really damn good. Kyle Whittingham, an absolute savage of a man. And he's been there so long, I doubt he ever leaves that school. Cam Rising, probably about my age. He's been in college for 15 years or so. A seasoned veteran, a grizzled veteran in the Pac-12, now hopping into the Big 12. The Utah Utes, man, they seem like a program that's going to win, but they're always going to be considered underdogs because they got that U logo on that beautiful helmet that they've got. I mean, underrated good helmets there for Utah. Great home field environment, great football team, the Utah Utes. Congratulations, you have earned my secondary fandom in college football. I look forward to cheering for you to win the Big 12 and go to the college football playoff here in maybe Cam Rising's final year in college football. So there you have it, folks. My secondary team, the Utah Utes. I will be taking no questions whatsoever. Respect my decision. I look forward to watching you on Saturdays this fall and cheering for you wholeheartedly now that I have hopped aboard your fandom. With that, let's talk about favorite freaks of the Combine, right? As promised, didn't have one last week for the Combine recap, so this time I'm coming back around. And, it was staring me right in the face. It was a trendy pick. I didn't want to overthink it, though. But thinking back, Xavier Worthy, of course, fast as hell, stepped on campus at Texas and was the number one wide receiver, obviously. He is a guy that I love to see. I love super fast guys, especially super fast guys that have fantastic production at the college level. So Xavier Worthy, one of my favorite freaks from the Combine. How about this for an outside-the-box one, though? And he had a bit of a buzz at the Senior Bowl, just with the size and the measurables. Johnny Wilson. This dude is 6'7", really good quickness for 6'7", too. Still listed as a wide receiver. Ran at like a 4.5 and change at the Combine. I am thinking right now, and I can't remember, I apologize to this man. It was on the Mina Kimes show. Again, if you don't listen to Mina Kimes and you are a big-time football nerd like me, I suggest you do, because I firmly believe she is the best analyst in the game. Really, really good. Knows her shit. One of the guys that was on the podcast, and again, forgive me, I forget this man's name, talking about Johnny Wilson moving to tight end, and I love that idea. At 6'7", he puts on like 20 more pounds. He's already like 230 at 6'7". He puts on like 20 more pounds. He's going to be an absolute, and with that speed, he's going to be an absolute matchup nightmare for linebackers, safeties, whoever you put on him. Pretty much, that's not a number one corner is going to have an absolute problem dealing with him in the middle of the field. And the template's already there. Darren Waller, a wide receiver coming out of college from Auburn, he switched to tight end. Now he's been, when healthy, one of the best tight ends in the entire league. I think Johnny Wilson has that sort of trajectory. I think he could be a star tight end at the next level. So Johnny Wilson, that is my other favorite freak coming out of the NFL Combine. With that, though, let's get another gulp of the coffee. Ambitious gulp. Ambitious gulp. Started drinking and decided that's going to be the final gulp of the coffee cup there. Just down that thing, lickety-split. But yeah, let's get into the happenings of the NFL week that was, shall we? A lot happened, like I said. Just went through all the free agency stuff. We'll be going through even more of that next week. But let's get to the lead-up of free agency, how we got there. First off, the Panthers placed a franchise tag on star pass rusher Brian Burns. That was a $24 million tag. He's now traded to the New York Giants. Michael Pittman Jr. got the franchise tag from Indy. He agreed to a new deal, which we'll get to here in just a bit. Antoine Winfield Jr., he got the tag from Tampa Bay. No deal yet for him. The Pats placed a transition tag on safety Kyle Duggar. Justin Madubuike, he officially got the tag as well. He signed the deal, and cornerback Jalen Johnson of the Bears got the tag as well there, and he also has a deal. So there you have it. There are your franchise tag players. Don't think I missed any. Could be wrong there, though. Obviously, T. Higgins got tagged last week, I think it was last week. Got tagged very early on in this whole thing. He has requested a trade from the Cincinnati Bengals. However, so did Lamar Jackson. So I don't know if they're going to be willing to facilitate said trade. As it's always been, though, the Bengals hold all the cards. You can request a trade all you want. Doesn't mean that the Bengals are going to capitulate to that request unless they get a first-round pick with maybe some additional compensation to that in return for them. So, yeah, the T. Higgins situation, it's dragging on right now. Might be a situation where maybe he doesn't sign a tag and maybe he doesn't show up. That's pretty much the only way where T. Higgins can force the team's hand on this, quite frankly. But speaking of the deals that came through on those franchise tag players, Justin Madubuike signed a deal for 4 years, $98 million to stay with the Ravens long term a few days after being tagged. That's a big-time guy to keep around. He's like borderline fringe defensive player of the year conversation last year. He dominated the middle of that Ravens defense. Really, really good guy to have back, especially with Patrick Queen likely being on the move this offseason. Ravens don't have the cap space to pay both Madubuike and Patrick Queen this offseason. So having a guy in the middle just clog it up like that so Roquan Smith can go do his thing, that's a positive thing for this Ravens team right now, especially losing your defensive coordinator as well. And Geno Stone, for that matter, on the back end. Really big get to keep Justin Madubuike in the building. And I would assume that Ravens defense is going to be as strong as ever next year. Maybe not quite as talented, but strong as ever, I can assure you. The Colts and Michael Pittman, they came together on a agreement at the buzzer of the deadline to get this deal done before free agency started. That would be a 3-year, $70 million deal, $46 million guaranteed. And I said this last week, folks. I mean, say what you want about Jim Irsay, he likes to pay his own guys. So I kind of figured this would be a deal that would get done. And lo and behold, before the free agency period even started, Michael Pittman signs this 3-year, $70 million deal. The Colts have no worries about their number one wide receiver holding out of camp or holding out of regular season games. He will be there, a guy they needed to be there with the lack of weapons that they have on the outside. Jalen Johnson, cornerback of the Bears, also signed a big deal shortly after being tagged, 4 years, $76 million. Same deal that Jonathan Grenard got with the Vikings in free agency. Jalen Johnson played out of his mind last year, and part of a really solid secondary that's coming together for the Bears. Got another addition coming up for the Bears as well in the secondary. Mark my words, folks, the Bears are going to be at the very least a winning team next year. I think if Caleb Williams is even remotely as advertised in his rookie year, that new Shane Waldron offense, you assume they're going to keep bolstering the interior of that offensive line there. They've added some really, really good players on that Bears defense. I think right now the Bears are a fringe playoff team right now. What Ryan Poles has done in the 2 short years that he's been there has been nothing short of amazing, quite frankly. He's totally rebuilt that roster and put them in a position to win. And with Caleb Williams getting in there, they have opened up a window for the next 3 years, I would say, before they have to pay that man his money to where they can go make a run. And I think it starts this year. I think they make a push for the playoffs this year. I think 9-8 might be the floor for this team. I think very highly of what the Bears have done over there in Chicago. Fuck them, but I think very highly of what Ryan Poles is doing there, building that roster. The Chiefs, speaking of paying that man his money, the Chiefs did just that. Also former, fellow alum of the great Mississippi State University, Chris Jones, maybe the best defensive tackle in all of the league, is getting a 5-year, $160 million deal. $95 million of that guaranteed. They now have their defensive anchor locked up for the long term, likely for the remainder of his prime. And this is exactly what they needed. You got Patrick Mahomes on one side and Andy Reid. They can figure out the offense. You need an absolute game changer on the defensive side of the ball if you want to consistently put out a defense that changes the calculus for opposing offenses and keeps you in that championship run. Say what you will about Patrick Mahomes and the brilliance therein. He is brilliant, by the way. He's a fantastic, a fantastic quarterback. Like I said, probably the best of all time in my eyes. Also, real quick, Jordan Brooks has agreed to terms with Miami, the linebacker, the Seahawks, a really good linebacker with the Seahawks. That's a good pickup there for the Miami Dolphins, especially with Jerome Baker being on the move, which we'll talk about here in just a minute. But back to the Chris Jones of it all. You have got your defensive anchor in there, and again, say what you will about Patrick Mahomes. The defense, unequivocally, is the reason why the Chiefs made it out of the AFC. You go look at the path they went through from the Miami Dolphins to the Buffalo Bills to the Baltimore Ravens. They're facing top 10 offense after top 10 offense after maybe the greatest offense of all time statistically in the regular season. Maybe the greatest team of all time statistically between that number one offense and that number one defense. And basically at every turn, the Chiefs shut them down. The defense, make no mistake about it, is what won the Chiefs that last championship, and Chris Jones was a gigantic part of that. Huge get, huge retention there for big money, but huge retention there for Chris Jones, and the Chiefs. And I think it ensures that they're going to be a championship contender for years to come. Also, compensation update on Jordan Brooks. That's the 3-year, $30 million contract with the Miami Dolphins. Again, good pickup there in Miami. I think really kind of, fills some holes there. Not all of them, but fills some holes there with what they've lost in free agency so far. Going down the list here, the Mac Jones era in Foxborough is over. The Patriots have traded their former first-round pick to the Jags. He'll sit behind Trevor Lawrence for a season. The compensation was just a 6th-round pick. Also, Mac Jones grew up in the Jacksonville area, played high school football in the Jacksonville area. So maybe he goes home, gets a little bit of a reset, gets to learn from Doug Peterson, probably the best offensive mind he's had in his career outside of Josh McDaniels. But we all know Josh McDaniels is a giant prick, so a bit more enjoyable offensive mind to be around there in Doug Peterson. Maybe he can rehab his career a little bit. I don't think the intellect was lacking for Mac Jones, though. I think it was the vibes therein that were lacking for Mackie Boy. Eminently unlikable player on the football field. I'll just say that much, but no ill will towards him. He never did anything to me, so hey, wish him all the best. Hopefully, he's going to have a prove-it deal once he leaves the Jags, because I doubt that Trevor Lawrence is going to sit a whole lot of games and give Mac Jones a chance to get out there. But hey, hope for the best for him. Didn't work out with the Patriots. Didn't get put in a great situation either, though, so we'll see what happens. Eagles defensive tackle Fletcher Cox is following Jason Kelce into retirement after 12 seasons in the NFL. Brandon Graham is now the last holdover from the old guard after he signed a 1-year extension to stay in Philly. This feels like the end of an era, though, man. Those two guys were the heart and soul of the team. Fletcher Cox on the defensive side, Jason Kelce on the offensive side, and not having them there, it officially feels like the Super Bowl winning chapter of the Philadelphia Eagles, the Philly special season with the Eagles, all that sort of stuff. I think it's officially, the book is closed on it now. Again, you got a couple holdovers there between, Lane Johnson, Brandon Graham is there, but that's just about it. The roster is pretty much entirely turned over there. This is going to be a real test of Nick Sirianni's culture-building abilities. Let's see if they can keep that locker room together going forward. I have faith in them, but this is going to be a big test in the culture department coming up, especially in a put-up-or-shut-up year for Nick Sirianni after the disaster that happened down the stretch last year. This is a big season, really big season over there in Philadelphia. Baker Mayfield is staying in Tampa as expected. It's a 3-year, $100 million deal with $50 million of that guaranteed. Really just a heartwarming story. Yes, he was drafted number 1 overall by the Browns, but then the Browns did the Browns thing. They kicked him out of town. They shipped him out to the Panthers. He requests a release from the Panthers. He goes over to the Rams. Now he's looking for a home last offseason. No one wants him. He signs with the Bucs on a 1-year, $4 million prove-it deal. What do you know? He proves it. Lucky for him, he had Dave Canales there, who ended up putting him in a good situation a lot. And, when you're throwing balls up to Mike Evans, certainly doesn't hurt the situation at all. He parlays that into a $100 million contract. Hats off to Baker Mayfield, man. It's good to see him succeed after the odyssey that was the last couple seasons that he had in the NFL. Good for him making generational money after kind of scuttling there in the beginning of his career. Hopefully this leads to a long career, at the very least as a backup. Baker Mayfield, and I've maintained this the whole time. Say what you will about him, he's a fiery guy. I think he's a really good locker room vibes guy. And if you're a really good locker room vibes guy, you can be a backup quarterback at the very least for a long time. Play out your starting career, obviously, if you're Baker Mayfield, but no reason to think he can't be a backup somewhere, provide some juice off the bench, be really good vibes in the locker room, be a very good, homework guy for the incumbent starting quarterback. I think Baker Mayfield's going to be in the league for a long, long time. Saquon Barkley was not franchise tagged. The Giants let him walk in free agency. He went to the Eagles, as you know. And I think it's going to be a big question mark as to how the Giants replace him. Are they going to go with the draft? They signed Devin Singletary, but Devin Singletary is not nearly the running back that Saquon Barkley is. No disrespect to Devin Singletary, but Devin Singletary knows who he is. So will be a big question mark there going forward. The Jags released cornerback Darius Williams and safety Rayshon Jenkins, creating space they will likely need to put the franchise tag on their star pass rusher Josh Allen, who I believe they did franchise tag him, if I'm not mistaken. What are you doing over there, dog? Am I losing my mind? Oh, no, you're just underneath the table there. Hey, what's up, dog? How you doing? My dog Riley came in to say hi. What's up, folks? I'll just, give you some good scratches and continue along my way. The Seahawks are releasing Jamal Adams and safety Quandre Diggs. Not a big surprise with Jamal Adams. He's not the player he once was, and even before that, he wasn't a good coverage safety. He was just a really good blitzing safety. No disrespect to my buddy Zach, LSU alum, a big-time LSU fan. Been pretty much overrated since he came into the NFL, quite frankly. He's a guy that caused havoc and didn't really do the main job of a safety, which is to cover people. Quandre Diggs is a shocker to me. He's played really, really good football. Maybe not coming off of one of his best seasons, but right in the middle to end of the prime of his career, adding to a crazy safety market right now with everything that's out there. We'll get to more that went on the market here in just a bit. But Quandre Diggs, I'm really surprised that they let go of Quandre Diggs. I think he's a really, really good football player, and he's going to step right in and start for somebody next year. Full reset on the back end, though, for Mike McDonald in that defense. I assume they're going to supplement through the draft on that. I would also assume that Mike McDonald wants to build that defense in his image. We'll see going forward, though. I mean, I can understand Jamal Adams, Quandre Diggs, bit of a head scratcher there, but hey, you got to do what you got to do to clear some cap space, am I right? More free agency news coming along the wire here. One of my favorite names in all of football, Azeez Al-Shaair, linebacker formerly of the Niners, then the Titans last year, is signing with the Houston Texans for this upcoming season. Really good pickup for DeMeco Ryans, and of course, DeMeco Ryans was Azeez Al-Shaair's defensive coordinator with the San Francisco 49ers. So really good pickup there. Texans continue to bolster that defense that became a little bit of a problem down the stretch for them. All right, so with that said, the Chargers released Eric Kendricks after 1 year with the team. Come on home, brother. Come on home. We're not going to pay you a whole lot, and I don't think anyone's going to really pay you a whole lot at this point in your career, but come on home, man. We know you belong in Minnesota. You know you want to go back to a high-class organization that won't charge you for childcare like the LA Chargers did. Come on home. Come on home. We can always use another linebacker, man. Always use another linebacker, especially one that was so great for so long with the Minnesota Vikings. Just come on back to Papa. Come on back to Papa. Papa Kwesi. Come on and sign him. Love that. Would love that if he came back, but we'll see. Texans are re-signing to tight end Dalton Schultz to a 3-year, $36 million deal with $23.5 million of that guaranteed. Became a favorite option for C.J. Stroud throughout the course of last season. Dealt with some concussion issues here and there, but really, really solid player. Signed that 1-year prove-it deal after coming coming from the Cowboys last offseason. And I believe that Nick Caserio liked what he saw. I mean, DeMeco Ryans certainly liked what he saw on the field. So he gets rewarded for it. $12 million deal, $12 million a year deal. Woof, boy, is my brain just total mush right now. To return to the Texans. Texans should be all in over these next 2 seasons before you have to pay C.J. Stroud a massive market value deal, which will probably be coming in somewhere between 50 and 60 million, if I had to guess. That's where the quarterback market has gotten. Believe me, man, it's insane. But yeah, right now is when you got to spend your money and go for championships, especially in a semi-weak division like the AFC South. Now is the time. Now is the time to capitalize on what you have in the building, because C.J. Stroud's not going to be cost controlled for very long. Dolphins are releasing starting linebacker Jerome Baker. Just talked about them getting Jordan Brooks from the Seahawks. That was a big signing. Maybe precludes Jerome Baker from coming back to the Miami Dolphins. We'll see how it works out there. But the Dolphins didn't close the door on him returning to the Miami Dolphins. But another linebacker on the board there. Solid linebacker. A guy that really contributed well to that Dolphins defense over the last year. One of the bright spots on that defense, quite frankly, with all the injuries that they sustained. And the Bills released everybody. I mean, they released longtime safety Jordan Poyer after 7 seasons. He flirted with free agency before signing his last deal. Now he'll be a free agent to go wherever he pleases. He just added to the glut of safeties on the market right now. We'll see where he ends up. Also, they released cornerback Tre'Davious White coming off of that Achilles injury. Deontay Hardy, returner that was making a pretty good penny there. And center Mitch Morse, as well as a bevy of other players in an effort to get cap compliant. Brandon Beane is going to have to kill it in the draft this year. And he has not done that in the past. He's been an average drafter at best. Got a couple good players, been a bunch of busts though. He's going to have to really, really knock it out of the park in the draft this year if they want to continue a sort of Super Bowl contention there in Buffalo. The previous regime, as far as the players are concerned, that's over now, though. I mean, everyone except, Josh Allen is gone pretty much. Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs are pretty much the only holdovers there from the Super Bowl contending seasons that they've had. So, yeah, again, Brandon Beane, what do you got, man? Put up or shut up time for you right now. Also, compensation update on Azeez Al-Shaair. He's getting 3 years, $34 million with the Texans. Big pickup for DeMeco Ryans. I think he's gonna contribute in a big way, especially with Blake Cashman getting out of town there this offseason. Al-Shaair might actually be an upgrade. I think he's a really, really solid player. Kind of got buried on that depth chart behind Greenlaw and Warner. Played very well with the Titans last year. I think he's going to be fitting in just fine there down in H-Town in Houston. Up next, Bills did make a financial commitment to one of the safeties. However, they re-signed Taylor Rapp, who they signed last offseason. He'll be getting a 3-year deal, $14.5 million. He is now the undisputed leader there on the back end. No Jordan Poyer, no Micah Hyde. It's Taylor Rapp and whoever the hell else they bring in either free agency or the draft. He's going to have to step up in a big way. He's going to be asked to do so next season in Sean McDermott's defense there. Veteran tight end Zach Ertz is signing with the Commies on a 1-year, $5 million deal. I have no idea how he got $5 million at his advanced age, but good for him getting one more bag on the way out the door of the NFL there. We'll see how he contributes. He'll probably be slated as a starting tight end because they got rid of Logan Thomas there as well for the Commies. So not a whole lot of depth there. Probably going to end up being his time to shine. But hey, congrats to him on getting that deal. I did not think that Zach Ertz was at a point in his career where he was still going to be signing $5 million deals, quite frankly. Drew Tranquill signed a veteran min contract last year, I believe, with the Kansas City Chiefs. And now he's staying with the Chiefs on a 3-year, $19 million deal. Played his ass off last season, a tackling machine, a guy that, once again, going to be asked to step up in a big way because it feels like Willie Gay is going to be out the door with that signing of Chris Jones. Just a branching ramification of that, unavoidable. It's a good problem to have, though, quite frankly. You'd much rather have one of, if not the best defensive tackles in the entire league than not, but that comes with consequences. One of those is Drew Tranquill is going to have to step up in a huge way next to Nick Bolton next season because I don't think Willie Gay is going to be there to help him out. But still got L'Jarius Sneed on contract with that franchise tag. We'll see if he gets traded. Seems more likely now that Chris Jones has been signed to that big deal. The bones of that defense are still intact, though. I think you're still doing pretty well if you're Steve Spagnuolo. And Steve Spagnuolo has been one of the best defensive coordinators in the league for a long time. So he'll figure it out. Again, Chiefs are still leader in the clubhouse, in my opinion, to go back to the Super Bowl this next season out of the AFC. The Eagles are releasing cornerback Avonte Maddox coming off a ACL injury. Kind of expected, like I said, coming off an injury, you don't know how he's going to look. You don't have time for some guy being slowed coming back off an ACL, so better to just clear the cap. They need the cap space anyways, so I understand this move. We'll see where Avonte Maddox ends up in free agency. He probably won't sign immediately with just about anyone, I would imagine. Sucks, but it's the reality of the situation coming off an injury like that. The Broncos are releasing longtime safety, former All-Pro safety Justin Simmons after 8 seasons in Denver. Once again, one more name that's still maybe not in the prime of his career, but a really solid Really solid safety still at the NFL level. He'll make someone better next year, and he will step right in and start. I can assure you of that. He is now on the market, added to that glut of safeties. Also, coming across the timeline here, this according to Ian Rappaport, his sources say the Patriots are re-signing versatile offensive lineman Michael Onwenu on a 3-year, $57 million deal. Includes $38 million guaranteed. He gets a $22.5 million signing bonus, especially with how awful that offensive line has been. Michael Onwenu has been a shining ray of light where there has not been a whole lot on that offensive line. So that's a really, really good guy to keep around, a guy that they needed to keep around for the Patriots, especially if you're planning on drafting a quarterback there. He sticks around with the New England Patriots. So back to it, though. The Rams, skipped one there. The Dolphins are signing former Falcons tight end Jonnu Smith after he was released by the Falcons last week. He's getting 2 years, $10 million. Type of guy that I think fits really, really well in that Shanahan sort of scheme. You like your tight ends to be able to catch, what Jonnu Smith has been able to do. Had a solid season last year in Arthur Smith's offense. This time around, with the Miami Dolphins in the Mike McDaniel system, really, really good blocker, which is what you really want out of the tight ends in the Shanahan sort of running scheme. You want tight ends that can block very, very well, that can also catch. Jonnu Smith fits that bill. He gets the same annual value as Zach Ertz, which surprises me. I think Jonnu Smith has a little bit more gas left in the tank than Zach Ertz. But that's just, the value of the free market, I suppose. I think an underrated sort of pickup there for the Miami Dolphins. Won't be one that flashes off the screen, but I think one will be a guy that helps out that offense with Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane. Don't be surprised if you see some big runs run off his ass throughout the course of the year next season. The LA Rams signed guard Kevin Dotson to a 3-year, $48 million extension. Big signing. One of the better guards in the entire league, especially when you got Jonah Jackson in the free agency market. I mean, you have just kind of locked up the center of that offensive line right now, and especially with Kyren Williams coming back, you know what Sean McVay wants to do. He wants to run that ball and let the rest of the offense flow out of the success of that running game, as all Shanahan schemes really want to do at the core of it. So really, really good guy to keep around there in Kevin Dotson. Rams are going to be right back there next year, folks. Mark my words. I'm not really going out on a limb with that, but mark my words on that one. Like I said earlier, Jalen Johnson got a 4-year, $76 million deal. $54 million of that is guaranteed. Really good player there. Tyrann Mathieu staying in New Orleans on a 2-year, $13 million deal. Well past his prime, but still a solid player. A guy that I think New Orleans fans, especially with that LSU connection, would love to have around. Just fits the culture of that team. So good to have him back in New Orleans. Chukwuma Okorafor is signing with the Patriots after being cut by the Steelers. I'll just put it this way. If the Steelers are cutting you with still a shaky offensive line, I don't know if that's necessarily a guy that I'd like to rely on to start for my offensive line. But hey, the Pats need all the help they can get, and I think he still might be an upgrade over what they have in the building right now, because they do not have a lot, quite frankly. They are in desperate need of offensive linemen. So Chukwuma Okorafor, why not? Why not? They didn't sign him for a whole lot of money, I don't think, so go on ahead. Steelers released cornerback Patrick Peterson. Kind of expected, but he's now on the market as well. We'll see if he ends up with a team. Might be right near the end of the road. Certainly don't think he's going in the first wave of free agents. Might be someone that moves to safety when it's all said and done. I think his time at corner is just about over, I would imagine. And if he wants to extend his career, safety might be the move. But when in this huge free agent market of safeties, he still might have to stick around at cornerback, quite frankly, because I'm not sure. I mean, I think the depth's a little bit better for his monetary advancement in the cornerback market than it is in the safety market. What I'm saying here is Patrick Peterson's in a bit of a tough situation for finding his next job, but I assume someone's going to sign him eventually. He's still a good enough player to make a good contribution at this level, especially if you got a young secondary. Needs some mentorship there, some veteran leadership. Patrick Peterson provides just that. Really good leader in the locker room. Great culture guy. So we'll see where he ends up. 49ers re-signed right tackle Colton McKivitz to a 1 year $7 million deal. $70 million over 1 year for a right tackle would be insane, but $7 million deal for Colton McKivitz, keeping that 49ers offensive line intact. Average offensive line at best, but you really only need to be average when you have a Hall of Fame left tackle and Kyle Shanahan drawing up run plays. So good signing, good re-signing there to keep the band together there with the 49ers. The Patriots are re-signing tight end Hunter Henry. We'll get to that here in just a second. I got another notification from Adam Schefter, but Hunter Henry's getting a 3-year deal worth up to $30 million to re-sign with the Patriots. He has stayed surprisingly healthy with the New England Patriots, which I didn't think would happen after, the injury after injury after injury he got with the San Diego, I just dead named him, sorry, the LA Chargers. And yeah, I think that's, in an offense with a dearth of weapons, keeping a really good tight end like Hunter Henry, especially if you're bringing in a rookie quarterback, which, as we know, tight ends are the safety blanket for a rookie quarterback. Keeping him around, really good guy to have in the building. That's a big signing for them, and they had ample cap space to do it. Let's see what the hell that Adam Schefter is talking about here. Just Josh Allen restructuring his contract. Created about $16.7 million in cap space, which the Bills sorely needed if they wanted to do anything in free agency. So, yeah, good for them. Good for Josh Allen. That's just kind of what you can do with one of those long-term QB deals, though, I imagine. So, there you go. That's news. Wide receiver Michael Thomas is on his way out of NOLA with a bang, as he tweets out, quote, "Jeff Duncan is a hoe," for reporting his release. That was not all he tweeted, but yeah. Classic Mike Thomas, just blowing the top off here. Not exactly known to be an even-keeled and measured guy. Known to be a bit of an intense guy. A bit of an asshole in some circles, but intense, if nothing else. We'll see what his free agent market holds. I would be shocked if he went in the first wave of free agency. I think he's going to have to wait for the market to shake out before he realizes, or not realizes, but before he, finds a new home at wherever the hell that happens to be next. I have a feeling he's going to be waiting for a while, though. That's what I'm talking about. And didn't exactly endear himself to the next suitor as he just trashed a local reporter on the way out the door. It's a tough look. That's a tough look, but not exactly out of character for Michael Thomas. At the very least, hey, he's being himself. You can't fault that too much. He's being himself, even if himself is kind of a dick. But yeah, we'll see where Michael Thomas ends up. His time in NOLA is done, though, I would imagine. And at long last, the longest tenured player on the trade block has found a new home. Wide receiver Jerry Jeudy, formerly of the Denver Broncos, is being traded to the Cleveland Browns for a 5th and a 6th round pick in the 2024 NFL Draft. They're not going to be asking Jerry Jeudy to be a number 1 wide receiver there for him. They just need him to come in there and play the 3rd, 4th wide receiver role. For what you give up, this is a really solid pickup for the Browns. They have a stacked receiving core right now. Between Amari Cooper, you got Elijah Moore there as well. There's another wide receiver whose name's escaping, but they got David Njoku there, underrated tight end at the NFL level right now. You still got the nasty man at QB, and we're not sure if the nasty man is actually good at quarterback, but Nick Chubb's coming back off an injury. Hopefully he's still every bit of the player he was before he went down with that gruesome knee injury last season. Cleveland Browns should still be right in line for another playoff berth, especially you still got Jim Schwartz coordinating that defense. You still got Myles Garrett. You still got Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. You got stars at every level on that defense and a really solid crew of weapons, really great offensive line on the offensive side. As long as the nasty man plays average quarterback play, they should be right in the thick of it for another playoff spot this year. And no guarantee he does play really well, or really average quarterback play, but hey, you got the pieces in place to do it. No real excuses now if you're Deshaun Watson. So we'll see how it works out for him. The Seahawks wide receiver Tyler Lockett is staying in Seattle on a restructured deal. That's 2 years, $30 million. Clears up some cap space for him and allows them or allows him to stay in Seattle for the foreseeable future here. And, good guy to keep around. Not quite in his prime anymore, but still a really solid player there with the Seattle Seahawks. So, again, keeps them right in the conversation for a playoff spot. Now that you've got the guys in place to do, Ryan Grubb, I think he's going to be a star as an NFL offensive coordinator, bringing some college concepts, some creativity there. I think the Seahawks are a very interesting team this year with what they have coming in with Mike McDonald and Ryan Grubb and co there. Bit of a rebuild there, bit of a soft rebuild, if you will. But I think they got the coaching staff to make a good splash here in the next couple of years. So we'll see how they work it out. Keeping Tyler Lockett in the building, never a bad thing, though. Never a bad thing. The Bears reached an agreement with free agent safety Kevin Byard after he was released by the Eagles. He signed a 2-year, $15 million contract. We'll see what he has left in the tank. Wasn't great with the Eagles last year, but he is now on the Bears, a good addition on the back end. They continue to bolster that secondary, which just last year in the offseason was plaguing them with how bad they were. Now, all of a sudden, Bears have the makings and the bones of a top 10 defense with what they've got on the defensive line. They signed a couple really solid linebackers last offseason. They got Jalen Johnson. Kyler Gordon played very, very well, a young cornerback there. Now you got Kevin Byard on the back end. Again, we'll see what he has left, but a solid pickup, and paying him $15 million, you're expecting him to be a starter back there, but being a quality starter. So again, I have been nothing but impressed with what Ryan Poles has done there, rebuilding this team. Really, outside of the Chase Claypool trade, I think he's gotten hit after hit after hit on his moves in rebuilding this team, and the roster shows. They have a legit borderline playoff roster this next season. I am very high on the Bears this year. Very, very high on the Bears, unfortunately. Fuck them again, but I'm very high on them this upcoming season. The Pats re-signed wide receiver Kendrick Bourne to a 3-year, $33 million contract coming off that ACL injury. Surprisingly good money coming off that ACL injury, quite frankly. But one of the only weapons I liked in that offense outside of Hunter Henry, but kind of a risk coming off that injury. We'll see what he looks like after that. Explosive player, though, before the injury. He was a really, really solid after-the-catch guy. Just a really, really solid weapon in general, and a more creative offense that, like, you're hoping that you get in the new regime under Gerard Mayo. And I forget who they had as the offensive coordinator. Forgive me for not knowing that man's name. But you hope he's using a little bit more creative fashion this year. It's a good guy to keep around, though. It's a good guy to build off of, especially if you're getting, even if you don't go in the quarterback direction, if you're getting a Marvin Harrison Jr. in there. Kendrick Bourne's a good compliment to that. So is Hunter Henry, for that matter. So good move so far for the Pats in my book, assuming that Kendrick Bourne is roughly the same player he was before that ACL injury. Never a guarantee. It's always a risk. But I think with that $33 million price tag over 3 years, you can see the Patriots are confident that he will be returning as a really solid contributor coming back this next season. Overnight on Sunday, Russell Wilson made his decision. He will sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers once he is officially cut by the Denver Broncos on Wednesday. And of course, no reason to pay anything more than the league minimum because he's already getting a guaranteed $39 million. Lock it up for Russell Wilson this year. All the additional money you pay him is just offsetting what the Broncos pay, so just stick the Broncos with the Bills, sign him to the veteran minimum, and now the Pittsburgh Steelers have a debatable starting level, caliber quarterback at veteran minimum price tag. I think it's going to be a lively competition between him and Kenny Pickett. I think Russell Wilson has the edge, quite frankly. Kenny Pickett has not been impressive since coming out of Pittsburgh. Again, has a lot like Mac Jones, wasn't put in a very good situation offensively. Matt Canada's offense, they stuck with that for entirely too long. Not creative at all, not a good offense at all, and didn't have a very good offensive line in front of him. Also didn't really throw the piss out of the ball, quite frankly, but wasn't done a whole lot of favors. Now, seems like this is Russell Wilson's job to lose. I do think there's going to be a legit competition, though, and Kenny Pickett's going to be given every opportunity to win the job. But it feels like Russell Wilson is, got the inside track to win this job when it's all said and done. But Russell Wilson has found his landing spot. I'm excited to see what his new corny slogan is for the fans of Pittsburgh. I'm looking forward to this. It's going to be a good time. Broncos country, let's ride all the way into the sunset, shall we? Colts re-signed linebacker Zaire Franklin to a 3-year, $31.26 million contract extension. Oddly specific number, but here we are. It's a lot of money, though, and a really, really good player in Zaire Franklin. A tackling machine. Came on after Darius Leonard, the artist formerly known as Darius Leonard, now Shaq Leonard, had that weird back injury where he needed all those surgeries. Still hasn't really landed on his feet after that, but lo and behold, Shaq Leonard goes out. Zaire Franklin comes in and is an absolute, a revelation for the Colts. And well-deserved new contract there, getting over $10 million a year on the new deal. So that's good signing there for the Colts, really securing the bones of that defense that needs all the players they can get. They weren't fantastic this last year, so get all the good guys that you can get. Maybe add some guys in free agency, but one thing at a time. Having Zaire Franklin locked up for the long term, nothing but a good thing there. For the Indianapolis Colts. Again, they like to pay their own guys. Jim Irsay, say what you will about him, likes to pay his own dudes. And we're getting right down here in the home stretch of the headlines. After being cut by the Bills, center Mitch Morse will sign with the Jacksonville Jaguars for 2 years, $10.5 million. Still a really solid starting level center, and a team that could not, you're not saying no to any offensive lineman that's coming to town. I'll just put it that way. You got Mitch Morse in town. Do you have really any other offensive linemen? They re-signed Ezra Cleveland to a contract extension, so he kills people. I'm not sure how good he is at offensive line, but he does kill people in pass protection sometimes when he blindsides a defensive end that someone else is blocking. Really good help not defender, but help blocker on that pass protection. But good luck, Trevor Lawrence. Good luck. Feels like you're going to be hitting the ground a lot again this year, but center Mitch Morse will help with that, quite frankly. Good center still at the National Football League level. The Lions are re-signing guard Graham Glasgow to a 3-year, $20.3 million deal. Keeping together part of that offensive line. You lose Jonah Jackson in free agency, is what it is there. The Rams just threw an absolute bag at him. Keeping Graham Glasgow in town is a good thing for the Lions, especially a team that likes to run like they do. I would expect them to attack the offensive line in the draft, though. That's kind of the straw that stirs the drink for the offense and the team as a whole. So I would anticipate them staying on top of that, making sure they have the depth, they have the bodies there to continue being a top 5 unit in the National Football League. You're only going to drop so far when you got Penei Sewell, Graham Glasgow, the bodies that they have on that offensive line, but it's good to ensure that you still have an elite unit there. He got $9.5 million guaranteed from the Lions. The Eagles also locked up guard Landon Dickerson to a 4-year extension. He's played very, very well since coming to Philadelphia. I believe they drafted him a couple years ago. Not worked out. He's the guy that stayed after Isaac Seumalo left. And Landon Dickerson played very, very well, and he got rewarded for doing so. The Eagles continue to maintain that offensive line. Jason Kelce, again, center, big-time question mark. But at the very least, everyone else in that offensive line from last year is sticking around. That is a good thing. If you figure out the center, still got a good chance to have an elite running game and really good pass protection, which you can work with that. You can make a really good offense out of that. I'm a big believer that you build from the offensive line outwards on the offense. It just makes everyone else's job easier when the offensive line is blocking their asses off. Good re-signing there from Landon Dickerson. He's locked up with Philly for the long term. And that's it for the NFL headlines right now, unless something comes across the screen as I'm looking at the Notes app right now. Let's look at a couple college football headlines here. The CFB is going to move in the early signing period up to a 3-day signing period directly after the FBS season, in addition to the regular signing period in February and March. So making it a little bit more streamlined so you're not just coming straight off the national championship straight into signing day. In that little in-between period between bowl season and the end of the regular season, you get a lot of these things done, which is good. Still, the college football calendar is an absolute mess. patently not designed by the football people around here, but I think this is an improvement. It's a good improvement there to start this thing off. So there you go. I'm looking forward to seeing how that affects the lifestyle of coaches and whether we get less of a deluge of coaches leaving college football like we have had here recently. And let's end off the episode on something a little toxic, shall we? Ole Miss is hiring former Mississippi State head coach Zach Arnett to their defensive staff. Boy, oh boy, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all ages, sexual preferences, identities, whatever you may have, we may be headed for one of the most toxic Egg Bowls of all time in 2024, man. I mean, there is bad blood. I mean, you talk about Zach Arnett hopping over to Ole Miss after being fired by Mississippi State. The bad blood between Jeff Lebby and Lane Kiffin after Jeff Lebby used to be on Lane Kiffin's staff. The built-in hatred already. The taking of DeCamerion Richardson in the transfer portal, having him for about 2 weeks in a cup of coffee, and then claiming him in the draft like he didn't just go to Mississippi State for his entire college career. Lane Kiffin being an absolute prick. Boy, oh boy, I cannot. This is one of my most anticipated Egg Bowls in recent memory right now, man. I am just over the moon excited for November 30th, Saturday, rivalry week in college football. On the eve of December, we are going to get ourselves an absolute dandy, assuming it's not a complete blowout. I hope not. Usually not a blowout in the Egg Bowl, unless it's Mississippi State doing the blowouts for the most part. But, I digress on that front. It's going to be so delightfully toxic. So delightfully toxic. I'm getting excited just thinking about it, man. The best Egg Bowls are ones where it's a physical football game. You get a few scuffles in between snaps. Then maybe in the third quarter, you get an all-out brawl between the teams. The toxicity just oozes out of every pore of every player. Every blade of grass just oozes the toxicity of the matchup. Boy, mark your calendars, folks. November 30th, 2024. The Egg Bowl is going to be at all-time levels of toxic, especially if Ole Miss is on the borderline of possibly making the college football playoff, and Mississippi State has a chance to go in there and piss directly in their Cheerios with Lane Kiffin likely being on the way to Florida after this season. Just reading the tea leaves there, I don't think Billy Napier is going to have a good year, and if he doesn't have a good year, Florida's going to fire him, and at that point, Florida would have targeted Lane Kiffin if they would have fired Billy Napier last offseason, it seems like. So, just reading the tea leaves there. Get the hell out of Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin. I'm tired of you making them a good football team, but I digress. Man, I'm giddy with excitement, folks. It's gonna be a classic toxic Egg Bowl. I don't know how good the game's gonna be. It's gonna be a classic of toxicity and bad feelings on the field right after Thanksgiving. And on that, ladies and gentlemen, we made it through in just under an hour and a half. We'll see how long it takes me to get through the outro, but that's it. That's it, folks. Thank you so much for tuning into Unqualified Analysis. We're going to have an equally busy and hectic episode this coming week. We got even more free agency deals to get to, and I'm sure we're going to have way more deals than I just went through off the top of the show in next week's episode. So we're going to be absolutely chock full of news to get to. And I'm looking forward to all of it. It's one of the best times in the NFL calendar that doesn't involve football. We're seeing where all these players are going, who's building championship contenders, who is lagging by the wayside. Hopefully it's not the Vikings in the latter category, but I will see y'all next week. Thank you so much for tuning in to Unqualified Analysis. If you enjoyed, go ahead, hit the subscribe button wherever you're listening to it. YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, any of those fine platforms, go ahead, hit the subscribe button, share with a friend that you think might enjoy this podcast a little bit. Get this thing growing a little bit more, shall we, folks? Also, a little bit of a change here. If you want to follow me on social media, follow me on Twitter got a new here. I decided to change it, was torn between just changing it straight to Unqualified Analysis, ended up on a compromise because I wanted to keep my name in the @. It is now Caleb V. UA on Twitter, a little bit easier to find, easier to spell, but if you don't want to spell it, the link will still be down in the description. It is now at CalebVUA on Twitter, X, whatever the hell you call that stupid app nowadays. I'm really only on it because I do this podcast, quite frankly. Outside of that, if you want to contact the show, either shoot me a DM on Twitter, that's where I'll be most responsive, or go on over to the email unqualifiedanalysis@gmail.com. That link will also be down in the description. So with that, thank you for tuning in to Unqualified Analysis. As always, I've got no clue what I'm talking about. One thing I learned this week, though, eggshells, chickens in particular, are made of calcium carbonate, which is the same material that makes up seashells, coral, and limestone. The more you know. Anyways, y'all have a good one. I'm going to go edit this thing. I will see y'all on the morrow. And by on the morrow, I mean a week from today. All right. Goodbye.